Many people have drawn a parallel between Labour's policy and the oppression of the kulaks in the USSR. The kulaks were what could be regarded as middle-class farmers, making a decent income from their businesses. Lenin and Stalin, being communists, wanted to seize control of the means of agricultural production and distribution. The process was called collectivization. Farms were taken over by the state and quota demands were forced on farmers, punishable by the gulag or death if not met, or if supplies were hidden away. The kulaks, of course, did not see much food nor much money for producing it, and their rural communities were soon driven into poverty and starvation. Ukraine suffered in particular, with millions dying, an event which still has ramifications today. In Stalin's eyes, collectivization was a practical notion as well as an ideological one. It funneled food into the industrializing cities and raised money and soft power from exports. It also did away with a group that held power on its own, power derived from the land they owned, the markets they could influence, and their individual enterprise. In the parlance of Machiavellian politics, this was a rival castle to the regime. Ideologically, Stalin was simply obeying the hardline tenets of communism. For him it was a win-win. For many of his subjects, it was mass death. Now, making a direct comparison is rather melodramatic, and we need to bear in mind that absurd comparisons with fascism are directed against social conservatives by the left. However, in a much less total and violent way, Labour's policies ranged against farmers do in a sense achieve the same aim. They wrestle the means of production from a politically powerful lobby group. Where it differs from the communists is that control will be handed over to big agriculture, who will snap up a lot of the smaller farms. Property developers and renewable energy magnates will absorb the rest. This could be referred to as kleptocracy, oligarchy, or corporatocracy, all notions against the ideals of Marx from which socialism is derived. One wonders if any Labour ministers or MPs have shares in big agriculture, property development, or renewable energy. Perhaps there are jobs promised to them if they further these sectors. Maybe they have friends or family involved in these fields, or perhaps such people are making donations to them. In unrelated news, renewables magnate Dale Vince has donated £5 million to the Labour Party, and Starmer recently had a meeting with the predatory asset management giant BlackRock. These things are hardly concealed from us. Back to the comparison between Labour and the Soviets, the ultimate purpose differs as well. The Soviets wanted a state-run economy, the demise of capitalism, and an all-powerful government. These modern leftists want a global capitalist economy managed by technocrats and with a sustainable and ethical bent. The Soviets at least realised a country needed to produce food. They were not ecological lunatics willing to hobble their society's industrial or agricultural output. They actually believed in a state that provided for citizens, or at least compliant citizens, with money and resources no object. No ordinary person was very well off, but nobody was homeless and there was very little crime. The Soviets also believed in national sovereignty and there only being two genders. You see such views still represented by figures like George Galloway. Starmer's lot, indeed the centre-left influenced political class as a whole, seem to have lost all focus on these aspects and are keen on this globalist capitalist vision instead. It's a strange hybrid between cultural Marxism, green evangelism and corporate control. Occasionally they are inconsistent, and when the polls look bad they make overtures to us traditional folk. It's Blair Triangulation 101. Except Starmer's motley crew are nowhere near as competent. Their exact ideology might be different from the Russian comrades, even from the traditional British left, but many on the right will insist that the left never changes. In one way or another, they will say, the socialists, for anyone on the left are socialists, always appropriate people's private property, despise small businessmen, and restrict their freedoms. It doesn't matter if you're Vladimir Lenin or Clement Attlee or Tony Blair, you are after the wealth and control of others. All that changes is who benefits. I don't fully agree, but there is an element of truth to this. Scratch a new Labour politician, and you will often find a background of radical socialism in their past, still informing them. Starmer is no exception. The old authoritarian West-hating style is there, but the aims and targets are new.